Okay. Today I want to deal with a matter of anger and gentleness. When you all think about anger in the workplace, what comes to your mind? I'm pretty sure I put a post out asking people about anger in the workplace, but when I just use that term, anger in the workplace, what is the cause of it? Why do people use it? What is anger in the workplace about, or anger in general? Anybody?
Not being promoted when you know you're doing hard work and not being recognized for it.
Okay, getting angry about how you're being treated. Okay, what's another reason that people exhibit anger in the workplace?
Lack of communication with each other.
Okay, all of these things are true, but somebody's gonna hit the point that I want to hit. Why would a person exhibit anger? What is the purpose of anger?
They're not happy.
They're not happy.
Burnout.
Keep going.
Push to that.
But what do you mean by they're not happy? They're not happy with what?
The job.
And therefore,
That they work with.
what's the purpose of anger?
Revenge.
Revenge? Huh?
Launch out.
What's that?
Launch out, like you launch out at.
Okay, okay, to lash out at someone. Anybody else? First Lady, why would people exhibit anger?
They're just not comfortable with what's going on in terms of productivity. I mean, they're just not happy with it.
And I think you all are hitting on the not happy part. And so if I'm not happy with a circumstance, what is it that I expect to accomplish by getting angry?
Getting back at people, getting even, making somebody feel.
No, that's revenge. That's not necessary. What am I trying to do with my anger?
If they get angry, then they'll be right.
Get somebody's attention to do what? To change. To control. Anger is in the workplace primarily used as a manipulation, a control mechanism. Actually, anger for the most part is used that way in almost every situation. When a husband gets angry at his wife, he's trying to get her to hear him or do something, or the wife gets angry at the husband. It's a form of anger. Literally is the passion to manipulate and control your circumstances. It's the passion to manipulate and control your circumstances. And so a lot of people will use anger to manipulate and control. Children do it, right? They fall out and get angry because they can't have what they want. They can't have their way. So by getting angry, they're learning at a very young age, I get people's attention. I get the toy. All right, here. So I've learned through anger. Yeah, but we understand why they were doing it. Regardless of what they actually end up getting, they didn't get angry because they wanted a whooping. You know what? I believe I need a whipping today. Let me get mad. No, that ain't the reason why they got angry. That may be the result of their anger, but their purpose was to have their way. So it is. So in a highly competitive workplace, a crucial management skill is the ability to get things done. Check this out. Would it be seen as a sign of weakness if you were not able to push through your agenda? So let me say this again, and going back to this whole question about anger. In this highly competitive society, workplace, a crucial management skill is to get the job done. Why not get it done? You follow what I'm saying? Stephen gets it done. But would it be seen then as a sign of weakness if you're not able to push your agenda through? I think there is nothing wrong with getting people to buy into my agenda, especially if my agenda is aligned with God's values and the corporation of highest admirations. Being assertive sometimes can be a good thing. So when you think about being assertive or aggressive or whatever, well, that's just a person, that's a go-getter. Isn't that what we think? We often admire people who have achieved great things, and how have they done that? They've pushed, they've made it happen. They've pushed things through. They have made it happen. But does this mean then, if that's what it takes to get the job done, does this mean then that meekness or gentleness has no place in the workplace? Being humble. So think about this. If the people who are being mired are the ones who get the job done, get their ideas across, push through. I remember when I was being considered an executive, the first time I heard the label of an angry black man, IBM had selected 20 people out of the whole corporation at that time. Maybe it was 200 to 300,000 people, and I was one of 20. First lady remembered this. They flew me down to headquarters, and we were down there for a week to be evaluated as potential leaders. We're being evaluated as potential executive leaders. And so, as a result of that, y'all getting my attention. Everybody looking back there instead of at me. So let me. I've lost my attention, trying to figure out what y'all attention is on. But that being said, lost my thought. Oh, I'm at IBM. I'm at headquarters, and so they evaluated 20 people, and so they put us in these situations. They said, okay, y'all get in groups of 5. Each of you 5 people are managers, and it is your responsibility to get your employee promoted. We only got one promotion. 5 managers, each one of them got an employee, and you got to get your person promoted. So how do you do that? Well, to me, you try to assert your values and your views on why your person should get promoted. So what happens, William, when they're not listening to you? What do?
Me personally?
Yes.
I just stay firm and have a winning attitude, have a team mentality.
Okay, but
Because, I mean, everybody...
William, I ain't studying you and your employee. I'm trying to get my employee ahead. And so I'm starting to raise my voice, William, because my employee is better than your employee. What are you going to do?
I'm going to show you by facts that my guy's better than your guy.
But you're losing the argument.
No,
I'm winning. Everybody's trying to go along with me because I'm being more assertive and more assertive.
Doesn't make you win, it just makes you louder.
Maybe it does.
Turn some people off too. So
It could. What do you do, Daniel? You that guy, and you're trying to get your person there, and they ain't listening to you. What are you going to do?
Well, first of all, I have to find a crowd where they're actually listening to me. So I'm going to find that point, a touching point where I can actually begin to elaborate on. Because if they're not listening to me, then it doesn't matter what I'm saying, because my point is not being heard, and I'm not making my argument valid. So, discussion is only discussion when there's 2 people partaking in a discussion.
Right.
If I'm just speaking what I'm saying, then it's just words.
Well, I can tell you, as this young man, I'm trying to get my guy promoted, so I'm trying to impose my will over everyone else. I don't know about you, but that's the way I'm thinking it's supposed to work.
That's how it works.
Y'all all trying to get your way, and I'm trying to have my way. Y'all looking at me. And by the way, especially if I think the end result is the person who wins the prize is the person who gets their person promoted. The person who gets whatever they want. So, okay. Normally, most people would think of gentleness and meekness as not being assertive, groveling, weak, probably passive-aggressive. In contrast, we admire leaders who are hard-charging, who get things done, who make things happen. A type A personality such as Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric. It seems as if gentleness has no place in today's hyper-competitive workplace. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I never could have figured out at that point in my life how being humble and meek would have got my person promoted. Everybody else is speaking up for their person, and if they've raised their decibel level to 60, I feel like I need to raise mine to 60. you know, everybody else went up to 70. I'm like, well, y'all, you know, Johnny has been a good person and his facts say, but everybody else is at decibel L level 80 now. And they're starting to really show their passion. And that's what, remember the definition of anger? The passion to manipulate and control people and circumstances. So isn't that what the assertive leader is? He's passionate. He gets things done. He gets people to see his way, and that's the way I thought. That's the way I feel it's supposed to be done. And yet perhaps it is the shark-infested waters of the business world that the godly quality of gentleness is most needed. Gentleness is most needed. So how is this going to work? The Greek word for gentleness or meekness is praetus. Gentleness is the fruit of the Spirit, and the Greek word for it also describes a word for, and it also describes a powerful animal that has learned to accept discipline. A powerful animal that has learned to accept discipline. What would be a powerful animal that has learned to accept discipline? An elephant. What else?
Lion.
Maybe a lion, if you get him trained.
Bear?
I don't know. Maybe if you talk about trained. What I was thinking about was a horse. Powerful. But we've been able to bridle it and tell them when, where, and how to use its power. It's not the wild bucking horse that nobody can touch. It knows when to use its energy, and it knows when to be calm, to let people get on its back. That's gentleness. That's gentleness. He still has the power. He just knows how and when to use it in the various circumstances. The Bible describes a gentle soul as one whose quiet but firm disposition in dealing with people reflect the willingness to surrender one's desires and disposition to God. Let me read that again. It describes a gentle soul as one whose quiet but firm disposition in dealing with people reflects the willingness to surrender one's desires and disposition to God. Moses is one such example, called the meekest man on earth, precisely because he allowed God, Yahweh, to guide his every step. He rose from stuttering shepherd to become a prophetic political leader. A millennia later, Jesus Christ described himself as meek and gentle. The Apostle Paul subsequently identified a gentle spirit as the key attribute to help Christian leaders flourish in hostile circumstances. Flourish in hostile circumstances. To be truthful, going back to the IBM example, I'm pretty sure that if you're standing back looking at me, first of all, I'm probably the only African American in the group, and they probably were being assertive, and I probably was being assertive like them. You can imagine then how that came across as, oh, you look too aggressive, Will. You're too, you're getting in people's face. I'm not trying to get my person higher. I'm trying to get things done my way, and y'all ain't listening to me. So I got to raise my voice to make sure you are listening to me. No, I disagree with you, William. This is the way it needs to be. And the more I did this to try to get it done, the worse I appeared. Paul observed this. Well, let me say this. Note that Moses, Jesus, and Paul were no pushovers. They were tough in facing overwhelming odds and bitter rivals. They responded with a most uncommon grace by being gentle souls. Paul observed that God's elect clothe themselves with meekness. Paul said this in scripture in Colossians 3:12. He exhorted Christians to let their gentleness be evident to all. Gentleness, Philippians 4:5. This exhortation to be gentle appears in the Bible at least 22 dozen times. Be gentle, be gentle, be gentle. As such, gentleness and meekness are highly valued attributes in Christian spirituality. These qualities describe courageous and disciplined people with nerves of steel. Courageous, the horse. You keep taking yourself back to that big old horse that can pull something great, and yet just they're humble and let a child climb on its back. All that power, and you just tug just a little bit and it'll go right. Tug just a little bit and it'll go left. Still, all that power is there. Gentleness is the conduit for harnessing strength and power. A gentle person is an individual of great power who has restrained his or her strength for the good of the weaker person. Restrained their strength for the good of the other person. I could get angry. I could go off. And I probably could have my way if I did get angry and I did go off. I probably could get exactly what I wanted. But that's not gentleness. I could use my anger. Everybody, pastor's mad right now. Okay, I can use that and it'll work. People will hop too. Y'all ain't working with me. They'll get it done. Anger does, especially depending on the position you're in, allow you to control the people or the situation. Gentleness is a different approach to doing the same thing. A soft tongue, the proverb says, can break bones. A soft tongue can break bones. Proverbs 25:15. A wise action or word carried by judiciously and time perfectly can inspire change even in the most tough circumstances. So let's talk about this, because I know it seems somewhat strange when I begin to talk about it, because we've always thought about the assertive leader, the aggressive leader. We admire the head of corporations who've gotten great things done, and yet most of them, perhaps, if you were in their inner circle, they would probably be known as using control, anger, to get stuff done, using that to make things happen. And it's not that it won't work, because it does. Sometimes we'll give in to keep a person calm. We know they're going to get angry. And so at a level, that anger can work. And we see that it has worked with people. Yes, Wanda?
Pastor, it's funny because I have a big problem in this area. I call people like that authority bullies, because, and to me, you were describing it as a passion, but I focus on that word of manipulation.
Yes.
Because I can stay gentle in an atmosphere, but when I see someone of authority possessing anger like that to get something done, to me, it's not to get it done. It's using your position to demand it done. And I think that, I have a big problem because I let that affect me, that other person. And I can be gentle, and they don't even have to be talking to me. But to see Daniel exercising his authority towards him, because I'm right here and I see it, it's just like, oh. So now something arose up in me towards the person exercising that anger.
So now you're getting angry.
Right.
Yes.
And so
now you're getting angry. Yes. You hate seeing people using anger to try to manipulate and control, and it makes you angry. Now you want to do something about it, and so you, in your mind, whether you actually do something or not, that's what's rising up in you. And when I use the word passion, I'm not using that necessarily in a positive sense. I'm using that in an emotional sense. To use your passion to control, because you are so passionate about what you believe, then you use this controlling mechanism called anger to control or manipulate the circumstance or the people. And you're right. And so the point is, it is used, and just as you say how it make you feel when you see it being used, although you can get stuff done, is that the way we want to go out as Christians?
right now.
That's the point.
Yeah, I lose all
That's
that.
the point. The point is we all have the capacity to get angry. And sometimes the anger has to do with trying to get the job done, trying to manipulate, control the circumstance or the situation, as opposed to using a gentle tongue or taking that power and bridling it in a certain way. This is some powerful stuff. And it is the thing that we want to be known for as we go into the workplace. That just because we're not angry don't mean that we're weak. Just because we don't display force and anger and all of this kind of stuff that we call sheer force of the will and all of that, it doesn't mean that we can't be strong. And that is the key that Jesus and Moses and Paul were trying to exemplify in their lives and in their teaching. Such gentleness requires a profound respect for the personal dignity of the other. So what you say, that bothers you because what you're saying is, when I see another person doing it, they're not respecting that person. And it bothers you. They're trying to manipulate or using their power and their authority over that person. And you know, I've heard this, it probably is on Spider-Man. With power comes great responsibility. As it was coming out of my mouth, I said, that wasn't scripture, that was Spider-Man. You know what the Bible says? I'm pretty sure that truth is somewhere in the scripture, but that quote did come from Spider-Man. But at any rate, but think about that. So I am your boss. I have the authority, and so even if I get angry, what you gonna do about it? Because you can't rebuke me, you can't correct me. So I could very easily just use my anger on you. But it shows a lack of respect, it shows a lack of discipline, it shows a lack of maturity for me to use my anger to try to manipulate and control you just because I can, and just because I probably can get away with it. And so what the fruit of the Spirit says is, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I may be angry, going back to Sister Wanda Thomas, that's great. So it helps you to develop empathy so that you won't do it. Now, I may not be able to stop that person from doing it, but when I'm put in a position of authority and control, I now know what not to do. I know now what not to do myself. And if I have done it, if I am guilty of it, because I'm going to be honest with you, this is the way I thought you got stuff done. Why? Because that's the way everybody else got it done. And that's everybody else was admired. And we admired the Donald Trumps and the Jack Walshes and the billionaires and all of that. Yeah, but how did they get that? How did they get that? And we don't want to fall into their traps of how they get ahead. That's how they lead. That's how they get the situation done. And so but Christ says we do it a little bit differently, or a lot bit differently. That's how they lead. That's not how we lead. If possible, he or she might seek to change a wrong attitude through a kind act. So when people are going crazy, let me tell you something. As a leader, as a pastor, you know, and they can make me angry, but what I've learned is to not act right then, and that's some of the things that we teach about communication. When you're angry, don't just call time out, because especially when you're in authority, you're like, hold on, you don't know who I am? Hold on, y'all getting this? And so to be able to take a step back, knowing that you could just destroy the person, but you choose not to, because maybe you can change their attitude with a gentle word or kind word, as opposed to using your force. A gentle person seeks to move at the pace, I like this, of another person's readiness to make changes. Let me say that. Wanda needs to hear this one. A gentle person, listen to this real quickly. A gentle person seeks to move at the pace of another person's readiness to change or embrace a goal. And the reason why I'm saying one is to hear this, because she constantly comes to me and says, Pastor, these people know better, da 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 da, and they just make me mad, and they know da 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 da. But I, as a pastor, this describes what gentleness is for me. I know somebody told me, Pastor, this person, something wrong with them now. And I said, I know, I'm their pastor. Just because I ain't moving in, killing them right now, don't mean that I'm not aware of the circumstance. I choose to use gentleness, the kind word at the proper time, the Holy Spirit moving at the proper time. I could go in and shut it down. I could go in and cut them off. But I chose not to. That's not weakness, that's gentleness. I'm moving at the pace of the other person's, another person's readiness to make changes or embrace a goal. This is how we are Christians. This is exactly the kind of person, let me talk to you all. Isn't that the type of person you would want as your boss? That when you off, they don't just kill you, even though they could. A self-assured person who empowers you in the way that best suits you. And that's what I try to do. And that's what I try to think about. What's the best way to reach this person? When I'm sitting down talking with a person, when I could have just shut it down in 2 minutes, this is it, hop to it, get out. I could have did that. If you want a job, leave. Or I could sit down for an hour and a half. I know very well now, I can go find another employee. I can go find another ministry leader. But I sit down and I'll try to find the right word for that person at that time. That's gentleness. That's gentleness. I'm self-assured. I know who I am. I know I'm still in charge. I know I'm still the boss. I know I still sign every paycheck. I know my name still say pastor. Consider the questions below as indicators of the Spirit's gentleness working in your life. So let me run through this real quick. Here's how you know gentleness is working in your life. Do you allow subordinates to make mistakes? And when they do you treat them in a firm yet compassionate manner? Yet compassionate. Here's how you know gentleness is working in your life. Do you show equal respect in the way you speak to your secretary or lunchroom worker as you do your CEO? Equal respect in terms of how you deal and treat with people. And a lot of us know people who don't do that. Some of these folks that I bring in here, I hear just some real not so good stories that they treat the people who's picking up from the airport one way, and then when they see me, they're a different way. It's not good. It's not good. That's not gentleness. Do you delight in serving others? That's my job, by the way. That's what I do for a living. I serve people. I serve people. When pastors say he's a public speaker, that's his job. I serve people. I'm here to make other people's lives better because I'm in it. Do you respond to the slightest touch of the Spirit? Or do you require heavy discipline before coming to your senses? Can the Holy Spirit bring you in, or folk got to really work with you to get you calmed down? Are you aware of what you do not know, so that you are willing to receive instructions with meekness and a teachable spirit? Now, although I may not have 20 years ago or so what I've been trying to come around, although I may not have been the most gentle person, now that right there, I got that. I always understood that there was things that I didn't know. And I had to remain in a humble manner in order for people to want to give it to me, or to teach it to me, or to show me. I mean, even like sometimes, like a lot of times, because see, I always tell y'all that I was a little bit smart, so I really was a little bit smart. So, but one of the things that I would always knew is that the other person may know something that I don't know. And if I see your hand, and if I come across as arrogant or already know that, then I would shut them down in their willingness to share with me. So sometimes I'll go ask a person a question, and they would spend 30 minutes giving me the answer, of which the first 29 minutes I knew everything they was already saying. But rather than shutting them down, I'd let them go ahead and give it out there and just remain humble as if I didn't know what they was talking about. Oh, thank you. I don't know how to do that, but thank you, because I knew eventually I would get to something that I really did know. And even if I didn't get it then, people need to be behaving the way we think they ought to be behaving. Is how do we behave in response to the way they're behaving?
But they're saying they don't want help by not making.
So, boy, isn't that so sad? Isn't that so sad for that person? Exactly, empathy. Isn't that so sad that that person don't realize how dumb they're being right now? Isn't that horrible that if they don't ever get that together, they will never get ahead? I feel sorry for them. I understand why people would lose respect for them. To me, it's not even a respect issue. To me, what it is, because I hear people say, if you want respect, you got to give respect. No. No, that ain't, we don't go through life eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's what that means. If you want to be loved, you better love. If you want to be respected, you better respect. If you want me to be gentle, you be gentle to me. No, no. That's not how we are to operate. So when you're dealing with people who are not gentle, your response is not to cut them off or lose respect for them or you're persona non grata or I have nothing to do with you. No. Allow the Holy Spirit to work in you. How do I deal with an angry person? How do I deal with this type of person that you're describing that causes people to lose respect for them? How can I help them? That's the point. This is one of the arguments that I had with my executive coaching group, because they focus a lot and they say how important it is to make sure you hire the right person. I agree with that to a degree, but what do we do with the wrong person? Throw them away? What do we do with the person who don't know better? Tough. The pool you're going to have with you always. What do we do about that person? Well, as Christians, that's the person that we're really here for. We're not here to set up a church with all the right people. And so that's my dilemma when I'm looking at business versus ministry. That's a big, strong dilemma for me, because I agree with them. I agree, Shannon. That'd be great if we had all the right employees. That if everybody had your spirit, boy, couldn't it be so smooth? The workplace just be so good. Everybody come in, we just so happy, and the kids are happy, the teachers are happy. But what do we do with the angry person? What do we do about the arrogant person? What do we do? Fire them. Okay. So if I fire them, somebody said, put them out the church a couple of weeks ago. Well, okay. So I just fired them. I just put them out the church. So now I feel better. But what about that person? What about that person? What about that soul? What about that individual that I just fired, that I just put out the church? Now, have I fired people? Yes. Have I put people out the church? Yes. But at the end of the day, if our answer to this is to disrespect, get rid of, get fired, and all of that, and only have the good people, then what about all those that don't have it? Some of you all are in here learning something, but what about the people that ain't in here learning? Are we just going to say tough? You should have showed up and learned?
No, but I think it's, like, take my kids. I do expect more from Shamika than I do Dominic, because Shamika is older. So after a while of teaching and giving that person the best that I can give them, I do think 5-6 years of working with them on the same thing, it's time to be honest enough to say, this just isn't the best or the suitable match here, because this has been a constant fight for you, a constant issue issue in this area, and at some point you have to look at, it's not, I'm never, my thought process would never to be to throw anybody away. But at some point, I do think you have to evaluate, is that person fit for this area, this place?
So let me help you with that, because I agree. It's just that some people are looking for that some point, and I typically am not. The some point will take care of itself. You know, Job said, you know, when I ask people, well, how long should you wait? How much time should you give them? You know, how long is long enough? How much is too much? I don't have an answer for that. And I think it's best that we don't try to define that. I think it's best because if we do that, now I agree with you, Wanda, that at a certain point you got to cut bait, whatever that means. They ain't fishermen watching, you know what that means. What's that? I said it nicely. Pee or get off the pot. I think they use another word, but I think that's what I mean. But if you go into a relationship having already defined that, as opposed to not even that's not my thought. Now I agree with you at a certain point you may have to, but that's not at the top of my agenda. That's not what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking that, okay, this new employee got 30 days to prove himself and I'm counting. That's not my thought. My thought is this employee has this issue, that issue, that issue, that issue, and that issue. How can I help them? That's my thought. Now you're right. At a certain point, I'm going to be like, I've done all I can do. I can't help you no more. But I don't know what that point is, and I don't go into it with a predefined definition or even a mindset or a thought that I can't help them. I always think I can help them. Now, I may not be able to, but that ain't my thought. My thought isn't, you know, it's possible, because here's my analogies. Here's a woman whose husband cheats on her, and she say, no, I'm through. And she quits. She can't take it. Here's another woman who put up with it for 10 years. Her husband turns around, gets his act together. Now they're faithful members. He's a deacon. She's ill, and he's now taking care of her as a great citizen in church and community. This is a real life story that's happened here in our church. So I don't know what's too much, and I don't think we should get in the business of trying to define that. Can I say I would have put up with a drug-addicted, philandering, promiscuous spouse for 10 years? I can't say I would have. And would I understand the person who said, you know what, this is the third time I'm out? I could clearly agree and understand that scenario, but let me be perfectly clear here. That person who has a successful marriage after dealing with that for 10 years, I bet you they're glad they made that choice. So, you know, to get into how long and all of that, I just don't participate in that. Yes?
Yes, Pastor, that brings me back to, and you had First Lady know when my husband was sick. And I looked like I was in the hospital from February up until July. Then I had to go back again. So like every year I was in the hospital. And it come to a point where I said, Lord, I am so tired. I cannot take anymore.
Right.
But then again, you know, I said, Lord, just give me the strength to go on and do what I have to do. And one morning the Lord told me, you are a servant. So I said, okay, Lord, thank you. And I didn't say anything else about, you know, being tired. I have to do what I have to do. You know, so that's what you said. You don't have an ending period. And you always think about, like, what if it was you? Like, they put you on the other foot, like you just said. You know, because he might have to wait on me, who knows? But, you know, I was there for him, and I still am, you know. But, like you said, it's never ending. It's you know.
That's a good point when you said I'm a servant. Because I thought about, well, when do you say, okay, enough of this serving? You don't, because that's what you're supposed to do. You serve for the rest of your life. Now, listen, this is the last table I'm setting up. No, this is what you do. This is the last person I'm going to put up with, you know, as a pastor. I ain't putting up with this mess no more. No, this is what I told somebody this is what I'm prepared to do for the rest of my life. Have lunch sessions, deal with members who go crazy, deal with folk who fall out, pull people in my office who are arguing and calling each other liars. This is what I've been doing. This is what I am doing, and this is what I'm going to continue to do for the rest of my life. This is my job, to deal with this. So that's a great point to make. Do you choose to listen and build relationships with your opponents, your boss, your staff, no matter how difficult they are? Or do you browbeat them into submission by ramming ideas down their throats? Are you able to rebuke without anger, argue without dismissiveness, treat everyone with complete courtesy? When you correct someone or provide feedback, do you give him or her a greater determination for excellence? I haven't always been very good at that, but that's always been my motivation. I'm trying to help this person. I want them to achieve more. I want them to get it. Or does the person become discouraged or driven to despair? And so if we're going to cultivate gentleness, if we're going to, this is a fruit of the Spirit, it doesn't come natural. It's something that you have to do. It's something that you have to build up. It's what should contrast us from the world in the workplace. They're going to use anger and their passion to impose their will. And we're going to have just as much will as they are. We're just going to do it a little bit differently, or a lot differently. Inwardly, on a deeper level, gentle people have gone through these steps. Gentle people go through these steps. They surrender. They renunciate. They have obedience. And they are subservient. That's the servant. They're obedient. They serve. They're obedient to the Spirit. They renounce their own agendas and motivations, and they surrender. They have the willingness to be molded. This willingness to give up power produces radical change in the way they treat others. Paul tells Titus, be ready for every good work and to be gentle to everyone. Be ready for every good work and be gentle to everyone. This requires bearing wrong done to you, putting up with all of this stuff, putting up with people who aren't gentle, people who are arrogant, this is what it's about. A willingness to help others. That's what gentleness is. What do gentle souls do or not do? Okay, let me run through these real quickly. People who are gentle do not wound others with rash words or cold disregard. They acknowledge their vulnerability to sin and weakness. This enables them to empathize deeply with others' struggles. One of the reasons why I kind of always try to share my own failures is it helps me to have empathy for other people's failures. And it helps people to understand that I'm not all that, so I need you to stop thinking you all that. If your leader can humble and submit and be gentle, then I need you to humble and submit and be gentle. I don't have to do this, and I'm your boss. Jesus said, I don't have to wash your feet, and I'm your Lord. But I am doing it. They respond with gentleness and reverence. They face off against people who mock, ridicule, and dismiss them. When faced. So, in other words, when people mock, ridicule, and dismiss them, their response is gentleness. Their response is gentleness. They do not give in or rebuke under pressure, especially when ethical principles are compromised. Let me be real clear. Anybody, as we was talking earlier, anybody can get angry at people who are arrogant or who are angry or who are, y'all follow that? Anybody can do that. It takes the Holy Spirit to produce gentleness for us to operate this way towards those same people. To not dismiss them, to not give up, to not quit. It's very easy, people, to say, I don't respect you, therefore I'm not working with you, I'm leaving, I'm quitting. Anybody can do that. And in doing that, we generally don't accomplish very much. If a boss was really bad and the employees didn't respond to that boss and they quit and they left, would that fix the boss? Now, if he was open, he might look inwardly on himself and what did I contribute to this? But everybody here know most of them wouldn't. Am I talking the truth? Most of them would say it's them. You know, so that thing is funny. Sometimes I wrestle with this as a pastor because, you know, and it's a very easy out when people won't respond to you as a leader, as a pastor, or, you know, sometimes a lot of holiness pastors and such, they'll say, people just don't want to hear the truth. And so the church is finally dwindling down. And it's their fault. People just don't want to hear God. People just don't want to be saved. Well, everything he just said is true, and yet you're still called a pastor and preach this. You can't use that as an excuse. People just don't want to hear the gospel. People don't want to be true. They don't want to be holy. People just want to be holy. So you're just going to stop pastoring them? I'll show them. Send them all to hell. Well, how does that fix anything? They do not give in or buckle under pressure. They are not paralyzed or overwhelmed when confronted with others' pain. When we choose the path of gentleness, we find freedom for ourselves as we discover the reality of a gentle God who loves us. We are like a spring of water or a source of refreshment for people who meet us. Amma Simplitica, a wise Egyptian desert mother, said, choose the meekness of Moses and you will find your heart with a rock. You will find your heart, which is a rock, changed into a spring of water. And of course, Spider-Man said with great responsibility. Okay. Great authority comes with responsibility. So, great discussion, about out of time. But any comments, feedback on any of this? Anger in the workplace versus gentleness in the workplace?
I'm not a bad person.
Uh-huh.
This is a very big issue for me.
I know.
But I think it's more for the bosses, the managers, the leaders, what I call the older kids, versus just, I do have the empathy for my younger child and more so than that older child. It's not that I can't or never show gentleness or empathy. It's just that with those older ones, or that the CEOs and
See, you make an assumption that they should know better, and the question would be, which is what God revealed to me, why would they know better if they haven't been taught better? If that's the way that they've always did it. Remember, what did I tell you all when they put me in that room with those other future executives? I thought that this was the way I was supposed to get my person hired. Now, y'all called me an angry black man, but that's all I knew. Nobody didn't show me how I could get that done through assertiveness. And let me be real clear. Through gentleness. And let me be real clear. Maybe in that environment, in that setting, I couldn't.
But what about when we're growing up in the same home? You got the same mom and daddy as me.
We don't have the same DNA. We don't have the same mind. We don't have the same soul. We don't have the same reactions and responses to things. Two children in the same hole. One of them is an angel, one of them is the devil. Two children in the same household. One of them loves shrimp and one of them is allergic to shrimp. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean absolutely nothing. Yeah, I'm the same pastor preaching the same message to everybody out there. It don't matter. People are who they are and they are different. But, yeah. Yes, go ahead,
It's
tell me.
funny because my boss once told me, because I manage like teams, and so she told me that I was too gentle, right? She said
Yep.
that the next project you manage, I want to hear that somebody, doesn't like you. And I'm like, what? It doesn't even make sense. The job gets done, but because that's the way that she manages people, she expects, me to have rifts somewhere along the line with somebody. And so she's like,
It's kind of like the person say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah.
In other words, what that means is, they can't imagine that you can get ahead without not being that person. They can't, so no, you got to rub some feathers. You got to shake it up. You got to, you got to have somebody need to be mad at you. And this even happens in the church world. I mean, where some of my pastor friends, they want enemies. They admire when people are ridiculing them and talking about them. I have enemies, but I'm not going out looking for them. I'm not trying to create them. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. Because that's probably the way she thinks, or he. That's the way they've been raised. And so they couldn't imagine that you can do it without doing that. When I became a manager, by the way, I did change some of that. And I got that same complaint from some of my peers. They thought I was being too nice to my employees.
Did you change how you did things, Cameron?
No.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I mean...
That's the answer I wanted to hear because, like Pastor said, people do things because of the way that they were taught. So the way that she manages is probably how she was taught, or she's seen someone else manage that way.
And it probably, and again, it can work. It just doesn't mean it's the right way for it to work. I mean, you can get ahead by doing things the wrong way, but it's still the wrong way. And that's the point. And by doing it the right way, it may not happen as quickly as doing it the wrong way. And that's in that center I was put up where I got to be forceful and get my person hired on the spot right there. Gentleness probably in that setting may not have worked. Does that make sense? But gentleness is yet what God wants us to exhibit, and then we are to then have long suffering for doing it the right way, even if it takes longer. Yes, Tamisha.
I was just going to say, you might be operating in gentleness and kindness, but there's always someone nearby in the cut that'll say what you're thinking. Like there'll always be that friend or that co-worker or somebody that's not operating with the fruits of the Spirit that'll say what you trained yourself not to say.
Okay.
I'm just making a point. It wasn't a question. I was just making a point.
Oh, okay. And let me close with this. And thank you all for your feedback and comments today. Great topic. At the end of the day, the whole thing about relationships, and if we're gonna ever get it, it's to take the focus off of the other people in terms of how they are behaving. If we're ever going to get it, if you are ever going to become successful at relationships, it can't ever be about what they are or are not doing. It has to always be about what are you going to do in response to it. Because that is what you're doing, but 9 times out of 10, we are displaying the wrong things as a result. So if a person is, as we described earlier, so if a person is angry or arrogant or whatever, we do respond to it, but we typically respond by shutting down, quitting, giving up, or forget them. They don't want to hear me. They don't want to respect me. I won't respect them. We are responding. We are reacting to it. We're just not doing it the right way because we're so pent up or frustrated with how they're behaving. And God was real clear. Don't be not overcome with evil, but overcome it with good. Overcome it with good. So gentleness is something that we need to get. Thank you all. Thank you for your gifts. Those that are watching, we'd love for you to share with the church if you're being blessed by this, and we'd love for you to sow something today. God first. Thank you all.